point he's made is that why have WWE brought back a few ECW pay-per-views to recreate it and never done a WCW one? I've only ever heard of them doing a Starcade house show last year. And you know, I think really, Matt, it comes down to Vince McMahon was never going to really put a WCW product. You know, he tries to avoid it like anything that's come from WCW that worked out successful there has pretty much, I would say, gone down a bad road in WWE. Even up to the likes of Sting, you could go to. Goldberg's first stint was terrible. The NWO, that did not last that long. So all the positive things that happened, I think Vince kind of always wanted to squash that and kind of make his own stuff, really, in all that.
It does feel that kind of way as well.
Yeah.
Because, like, as Vince's grip on the company kind of loosens, and, you know, maybe as Triple H's ideas evolve a bit more, we've now started to see, like, down on NXT, like, War Games has now become a thing, hasn't it? And, you know, it's a good match, it was a good idea, so it's a shame they hadn't gone to that earlier. Maybe it was just because it was a WCW product.
And here's the interesting thing, Triple H, if you ever listen to some interviews he's given, he is... I remember he got a present from Stephanie for his birthday one time, and I think it was, like, didn't he... was it something to do with, like, all the old titles or, like, holders and stuff like that he... I think she'd done him in a book, and he is, like, a huge NWA kind of fan. He used to love watching the National Wrestling Alliance, that whole Ric Flair defending the belt around different territories. He likes that system, you can tell, and he's trying to do that even with the NXT UK. He's trying to make internally even to have the territory system where you can work at each place, learn something new from each place in a different crowd, and I think he believes in that way of bringing up talent, whereas how it was is you only had WWE. So I do think Triple H is a bit of an old school guy, and I do think he takes a lot from the NWA and WCW, which I think he's more of a wrestling purist, which probably doesn't always amuse Vince McMahon, but I do think he's that side of the things, from what I hear, anyway. And going back to the point there, Paul, about ECW having, like, you know, you mentioning the one night stands and things like that. I think with Vince, Matt, of course, if you watch the ECW documentary, which is well recommended, one of my favourite documentaries there was, that WWE did, you'll find out that actually, even on Heyman's documentary, it's worth watching as well, you'll find out that Vince actually pumped quite a lot of money into ECW back in the day. He just never told anybody, because when they used to take some of their talent, like Al Snow and all these other guys that used to come out of there now and then, like Taz, he actually did sub him some money, whereas WCW never did that with the ECW guys. But Vince actually used to fund ECW guys, and you'll remember around 96 or 95 or 96, Matt, where they done like an ECW invasion before the latter invasion that we got, where ECW turned up and there was a feud between Jerry Lawler and a couple of their guys, where they were on like front row at an In Your House event, and then they had them showing up at the Manhattan Center on Raw. So they have kind of had a longer association. It was almost like ECW was kind of like a bit of a stomping ground for a sort of talent to go to that Vince would always be looking at, really to bring in. So I think there's just been a better relationship, if I'm honest, in that area. But thank you for your question there, Paul. Hope we've spent enough time with you on that one. We've got now a question from Raj, Matt. Is WWE going to use John Cena in a top program ever again at WrestleMania? Matt, is it I mean, let's be honest, Matt, I think John Cena is now no longer the face of the WWE. That is definitely turning. I'm not saying he couldn't be if he walked in tomorrow, but WWE in the last few years, man, I'm trying to think of John Cena's opponents. He's not really been at the sort of latter end of WrestleMania, as he's had. What did he have this year? Was a tag match again, wasn't it? He's done the thing with the Maurice and Maurice, and he's had Bray Wyatt. He's He's had Rusev. So I think actually, if you think back to it, Matt, his last big match was up actually against The Rock at 29, and that's quite a while ago now.
Yeah, I think to say that he would never step into WrestleMania and like have that big moment, it would be a long shot, because I feel like that would be a missed opportunity if WWE didn't go down that path and say, you know, we have this big storyline planned, and you know, you could be the only guy, you know, to get to the 17 titles. You know, that's a big moment in WWE history to get to that milestone. So I feel like they could make a big promo out of that. But even then, you know, I kind of feel like, would that actually be the main event? I'm not so sure, because it kind of then makes it too obvious, you know, that he would be destined to get that accolade and, you know, surpass Ric Flair. But, you know, I feel like if Hogan can do it, like when he came back to fight The Rock, and, you know, and that was a huge deal, wasn't it? Everyone like really bought into that. You know, say 10 years down the line, you know, I feel like John Cena would have the same appeal. He could turn up and just fight whoever the new guy is on the block, you know, and it would be one of those, you know, clash of generations again.
Yeah, I do feel like they completely did a throwaway match with Roman Reigns and John Cena that time. Like, I feel like they just did that for the sake of trying to get Roman over a bit more, but like, I wish they wouldn't have done that where they did it, because I think that, you know, if you look at it now, you know, there's so many big events, it's like there's only so much you can get out of things, and I do feel like they throw things away sometimes, and it is always special when they have never met before and they haven't had that face to face. I kind of feel like they do throw things like that away, and that would have been, you know, a match they could have probably made and, you know, made quite a big deal of. I do think, you know, this breaking Ric Flair's record, I think that has to come up. I think that should be played into a WrestleMania. It's that big of a story. And you know what? I think everything that John Cena's given, I think he deserves to go out on a high note. Like, I think he deserves to go out on a, you know, a big kind of deal, a big spectacle at a WrestleMania, because, you know, he's given everything. I know people always think he doesn't put people over, but he has definitely done that. So I think, you know, I think he deserves that. I think it would be a good story to tell. You know, can he break Flair's record? And, you know, the last maybe big thing he needs. I mean, he's done everything else, the guy. So, you know, that would be it. So that seems to be the only reason why he'd want to do it. But, you know, we'll have to see. But like Matt said, I think, you know, he is still a huge drawing power, and he could easily come back into it quite quickly. But we'll see. Next question. Interesting name, the Austin Kid. Do you think WWE know how to properly use female talent? What I mean is, I watched a backstage segment where I saw Ronda Rousey asking the Bellas, how do you make an open challenge? I was thinking, would a male talent say that, or something as stupid as that? Question mark. That's a good point. I mean, yeah, I mean, you know, I remember that as well, because I was watching it thinking the same thing, like, how do you make an open challenge? What? It's pretty obvious, really. Just go out there, and I didn't know there was a rule book. I've never heard that, you know, when they make open challenges, or John Cena did it that time, that he had to go down a committee or something and get it signed off. It was a stupid question. You're right, and I don't know if a male star would ever say stuff like that. I have no idea, but I do get what you mean. And, you know, this comes back to, you know, they do such good things. They are making progress with the female talent, don't get me wrong, but they are still so secluded in other areas. Like, how come it is that all the female talent happen to just be in one location all the time? You know, it never happens with the male guys, and they're always, you know, it's just the kind of banter that they're having with each other. You're like, this is ridiculous. You know, this is just like the writer is obviously watching like the Total Divas stuff, and he's trying to work it into that almost. I just do not get it. I feel like anything that was special about Ronda Rousey has definitely gone for me, because when you see her in moments like this, Matt, I mean, it's like, oh God, it's just like anybody else now. Even she's asking stupid things. I don't know why she asked that. Matt, have you got any good justification for that question, and what you have to do to make an open challenge?
Exactly the same. I was like, why? Yeah, I couldn't understand it. She's definitely not. She's supposed to be a fan of wrestling as well. She's supposed to have like grown up watching it and stuff. Like, it's not like a newcomer who's come from a different sport into this and doesn't know how things work. It did make her character look a bit silly, I would say. And like you said, like every time we see her, she just gets a little bit more and more exposed, and fans are becoming a little bit used to her now, and it's not that different to any other talent. Sooner or later I'm expecting her to see her take some silly losses, and then once that starts happening, it all goes downhill.
I can't believe it, but then I should believe it, because we haven't even we probably haven't said these two names on the entire podcast about females yet, and we spoke about Evolution. That's Bayley and Sasha Banks. I mean, when you look at what they've done with them, how can we not expect this sort of thing to happen? I mean, look at Asuka, another name that, it just doesn't get mentioned. So, the only thing she's got going for her is Triple H has pretty much brought her into this world, and I think he must have some sort of ownership there of his responsibility to try and get this to work. But I do feel like the more and more I'm just hearing her say lines that writers are giving her. It was like she said something last week when she was calling out something. I don't know what that word she used. I was like, she never used words like that in UFC. Why the hell is she saying that here? I don't get it, to be honest with you. But, the whole female thing in general, every time I see them backstage, it is always things like that. I mean, I'm sure if you wrote the dialogue down, it'd be even more funnier to review. But it is getting a little bit standard. I don't have a real answer for you there. But if anyone wants to email in how you make an open challenge, then let us know. Maybe there is something you have to go through, Matt. Maybe there's something we're missing here for all this. Next question, Mr. Monday Night. Is Brock signed with the WWE again? And Hell in a Cell was good, but the ending was terrible. So I think that's most people's sum-ups of that one. Has Brock signed? I really don't know, and I don't think anybody does, kind of thing. I think if anything, they've just got a very decent agreement between each other. And obviously, Matt, if the Saudi Arabian prince wanted Brock, then I think money talks, and I think that Brock is all about good business, Matt, and it makes complete sense to go and do that match. Matt, any views on that for a contract on Brock? Do you think he's signed and WWE just haven't said anything? Or
that's part of the good thing about Brock, isn't it? He gets people talking. Nobody really knows how he does business. We know famously he doesn't really even use a mobile phone.
No, that's true.
he just walked to a phone box. Good luck getting any phone hacking on that guy or anything like that. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, you know what? Go on, mate.
I was going to say that it's smart from WWE's point of view as well. Even if they did sign anything to him, the most you need right now is a 1 or a 2 match deal, because you can decide everything based on those 2 matches and then renegotiate after. Yeah,
absolutely. And he might be driving his stock up for UFC as well by doing this, don't forget. So because he's not officially signed a contract back with UFC yet officially, so he might be driving his price up on their end. He's very good at doing both of these things, Matt, at the minute. And so he's right in the middle. But Matt's talking about the phone business. Brock Lesnar probably, it sounds ridiculous because you think, this guy is all about business. But, I remember listening to him on the podcast, and I remember Austin saying, how do you see this? What is, do you have a passion for wrestling? And, he was like, this is my place of work. I give 100% when I'm there, but then I'm gone. And that's all I'm thinking about it, which is quite honest. It's a very honest statement. But, he's one of the few guys, Matt, that you just, talk about that podcast. That's probably the only time I've really, heard him for all that. And, you think about it, Matt, he is somebody you just never going to get anything out of. I could never, ever imagine him going, let's do a reality show with Brock. Can you imagine it? You'd probably kick